Emily's List is the shadowy force that's been shaping Australian politics for decades. Most people have never heard of them, but they have been secretly pulling the strings to push the Labor Party to be more pro-abortion for years and years now. Enormously successful. In fact, Tony Abbott has once called them the most powerful faction within the Labor Party, and that's despite the fact that they actually sit outside of the party. None of the Labor premiers today, or Prime Minister indeed, would be there if they didn't have the support of Emily's List. The sole goal of Emily's List is abortion. That is the objective of this organisation. They want more pro-abortion women in the parliament. They want more pro-abortion laws. They are literally about killing babies. That's what they exist for. But recently something strange has begun to happen. Here's the thing. There's actually trouble, it seems, in paradise because Emily's List is scrubbing its website. In the states where we've been the most active, they have literally vanquished from those sites most of the MPs, most of the Labor MPs. And it could be because these Labor MPs have suddenly had a change of heart and they've realised they're not into killing babies. It could also be that they're just trying to cover up how pro-abortion they are. They know it looks bad. What's the truth? We're going to tell you today. What we've uncovered will really shock you. That's today on The Dr. Jo Show. So before we get into today's episode, could I please ask that if you are new here, you subscribe to our channel. Some of you guys know that YouTube has flagged us as a dangerous channel, so they're not pushing this out. I really need you guys to subscribe and to hit the notification bell so that you know when the episodes are coming. Now, one of the most successful episodes we have done was right at the beginning when we exposed Emily's List. If you haven't seen that episode, do go and have a look. I'm going to do a quick summary, but you've really got to look at that episode. To understand how powerful Emily's List is, we need to understand how it started. And it was back in 1992 that a group of Labor women began planning what would become Emily's List. Now, some of these names you are going to know, they're household names. The Constitution was written by Julia Gillard, Joan Kirner, who's a former Premier, and Candy Broad. And then in 1996, Emily's List was officially launched. 1 year later, in 1997, in the South Australian election, every single one of their candidates got elected. So the goal of Emily's List is to find pro-abortion women, to give them money, to help them get pre-selection and help them get elected. They get mentoring, they get money. And the goal is to make our parliaments more pro-abortion. They've been enormously successful with this. It's now difficult to be a Labor woman in the party without being part of Emily's List. They're like the mafia. That is literally what they're about, and they rule and they control and they intimidate. So from those early days, Emily's List cemented itself as a political powerhouse founded by women like Joan Kirner, Carmen Lawrence, Meredith Bergman, Jan Burnswood, Kay Setches, Cheryl Davenport, Judy Spence. All of these women, including emerging leaders like Julia Gillard, at the time, they weren't just supporting candidates, they were building a political machine, an empire that would transform the face of the Labor Party. Because in the mid-1990s, the SDA was the most powerful union. It was the Catholic Union. There were many members of Labor Right that were against abortion, that were fiercely pro-life, even more pro-life than the Liberal Party. These people existed in the Labor Party, and there's still remnants of them today in some states. But Emily's List became so powerful that over time it far overtook this, and the entire party has been moved to the left and been moved to become pro-abortion. They're so controlling that we actually don't get much of a peek behind the curtain. We don't really know what's fully going on and the level of intimidation. But every now and again, certain stories emerge. And one of those was from Christina Keneally, who actually decided, and kudos to her, she's a former New South Wales Premier for the Labor Party. She wrote an opinion piece in The Guardian calling out Emily's List. And she said, on the issue of abortion, however, Emily's List only supports women candidates who agree to always support a pro-choice position. Never mind that this is a matter on which the Labor Party accords its members a conscience vote. Emily's List makes it a mandatory litmus test. Fail their test on how women should use their ovaries and you fail to get Emily's List support. Now, the thing is this, Emily's List claims to be about supporting women in parliament, therefore affirmative action. But as Christina Keneally makes so abundantly clear here, the only women who get to be part of their affirmative action, who benefit from what they've managed to achieve to force the Labor Party to have women in winnable seats, that's the affirmative action mechanism that they've got. The only women that benefit from them are those that agree with their dogma that abortion up to birth is a good thing that we should be fighting for, that every abortion is a valid abortion. These people are so aggressively pro-abortion, and she lays it out here because, since this article, Emily's List, it's changed its website. They've kind of moderated their position so it doesn't look like they're all about abortion. In 1996, when they started, this was all about abortion. It was all about pro-abortion women. After Keneally wrote this, they changed their website, so it makes it look like they're into things like, equal pay and maternity leave. They kind of had to sort of moderate how it looked because it looked so bad. And in fact, Keneally says if Emily's List is serious in calling for the ALP to adopt a 50-50 affirmative action rule, then it must support all Labor women, not just those with their right in inverted commas, view on abortion. And so this lays bare that this whole thing that they're about women, they're for women, they're feminists, they're for all of these other things, it just exposes it. Keneally makes it very clear this is about abortion. We managed to get another peek behind the curtain to expose the bullying that goes on in Emily's List earlier this year, courtesy of the work that we did together in the New South Wales campaign to defeat the radical Greens abortion bill. We were letterboxing in Labor seats. Now, they really hated that. And one MP who hated it more than most is Julia Finn. I think it's because she likes to talk to people in the electorate about how pro-life and how Catholic and how wholesome she is. But then, when we have these debates, she's really exposed for where she really sits and stands. And so in the letterboxing, we went to her seat of Granville, very conservative electorate, socially conservative, very anti-abortion. She knows that to win that seat, she could not possibly vote for Amanda Conn's bill. She just knew that. So this makes her feel very uncomfortable. And when we letterboxed, we spoke to one of her staffers, and that staffer emailed me texted me afterwards, and I'm going to read it to you now. She wrote, Hi Joanna, this is X from Julia's office. I'm not going to tell you her name. She said, I spoke to you out the front. I tried calling you yesterday but had no luck. I just wanted to alert you about a few notes about Julia that you mentioned, particularly being on Emily's List. When Julia voted against the abortion bill back in 2019, Emily's List kicked her off. So although online it appears she's on there, after 2019, she's actually no longer a member. This was one point I wanted to mention yesterday, but tonight I saw your post because I'd posted to socials and said, I'd said, Julia Finn's a member of Emily's List. She's pro-abortion because that's what you have to be a member of Emily's List. Come on, guys, we need to get to everybody in her electorate and let them know. Now, there's nothing that gets a politician's attention than when you go to their electorate and you tell the voters what that politician actually believes, and that politician knows it doesn't look good and they know it might risk their power and their position. And these people don't want that. There's tremendous perks with being a politician. You get like chauffeur-driven cars, you get $200,000 a year in salary, expense accounts. This is tremendous privilege. They don't want anything that could threaten this. So, that message from her staffer was very interesting because if you looked at Emily's List's website at the time, which I did, Julia Finn was there. She was a member of Emily's List. Now, the plot thickens because Julia Finn then gave a speech in Parliament, which even ChatGPT is confused about. So if you go to ChatGPT and say, I asked the question, did Julia Finn support or oppose Amanda Conn's Greens abortion bill in New South Wales earlier this year? Even ChatGPT, now it gets it wrong, which is why I tell my students do not use AI to answer our exam questions or the assignment questions because it gets it wrong all the time and it gets it ultimately wrong on Julia Finn. But it's interesting. It's interesting. They're so confused because, we're going to look at a bit of the speech in a moment and I'm telling you it's a total mishmash, word salad, makes no sense because she claims to be pro-life but then she gives that speech. But look at what ChatGPT says. They said Julia Finn, the member for Granville in the New South Wales Parliament, supported the abortion law reform amendment bill introduced by Greens MP Dr. Amanda Conn. The bill aimed to expand abortion access services by allowing nurse practitioners and endorsed midwives to prescribe abortion medication for early-stage pregnancies. The legislation passed both houses of Parliament. During the legislative process, Julia Finn emphasised the importance of protecting women's rights to make decisions about their own bodies and access necessary healthcare services. Her support aligned with the broader Labor Party's stance on reproductive rights. The bill was subject to a conscience vote, allowing MPs to vote according to their personal beliefs. So you can see that even ChatGPT, when it actually looks at the speech Julia Finn gave, they've labelled her as pro-abortion and supporting Conn's bill. Now, she didn't vote for the bill. She knew it was going to pass because Labor had done a deal, but she didn't vote for it because she wanted to be able to tell people in her electorate, no, I didn't vote for that bill. You can vote for me because I'm like you, I'm pro-life. But even ChatGPT, when you look at the substance of Julia Finn's speech, it's not a pro-life speech. It's not a pro-life speech. You can watch my takedown of it. You've got to check out that video. But there's a bit where she talks about Emily's List and it's honestly so confusing. It makes no sense. Let's take a watch.
I was a member of Emily's List and I resigned after I voted against the 2019 legislation. When I joined, I made it clear that I don't support late-term abortions and was told neither do they. I didn't ask what they meant by that and I should have, and that is on me, not on them.
So this is a truly confusing turn of phrase from Julia Finn. She says, I left Emily's List of my own volition. when I told them I don't support late-term abortion, and I also found out that neither are they. Now that makes no sense. Like it just doesn't add up. Now, she didn't vote for abortion up to birth in 2019 because she knew that she couldn't because of her electorate. At that point, she was in Emily's list. They would have been horrified that she didn't vote for abortion up to birth, and so they would have kicked her out. That's probably what happened. That's what her staff has said, and that's the version that I believe. But Julia Finn gets up in Parliament and makes this ridiculous speech, this word salad, which makes no sense, where she says, I'm against abortion up to birth. I'm against late-term abortion. So I left Emily's list of my own volition, and I also discovered that neither are they. What? They're not supportive of abortion up to birth? I mean, it was Emily's list MPs in every single Australian state that introduced abortion up to birth. Emily's list is for abortion up to birth. So, this makes no sense what she said, but it did put Emily's list on the horizon again, and we did more videos. And what's interesting is what has happened since. So, I'm a bit of a nerd and I get a bit obsessive about this stuff. So I'm always checking these websites. And in order to do a video on the South Australian campaign that we've got going on Sarah Gamesbill, I checked Emily's List website the other day. And what I noticed was, oh my gosh, there was only 4 South Australian Labor women MPs who were on the website. And I've checked it. You can see on the screen, October 15, there are 4 Emily's List Labor women: Susan Close, who's the Deputy Premier, Nat Cook, Rhiannon Pearce, Catherine Hutchinson. Now, as I looked at this, I thought, that is not true. That is definitely not true. I remember this time last year when we were fighting for Ben Hood's bill in South Australia, there were many more Emily's List MPs listed on that website. So I used this handy little website called the Wayback Machine. You guys have to check it out. It's good. My husband got me onto it. You can go back and check the version of the website that exists at particular dates. They don't capture it on every date, but they do capture it at particular points in time. And so I went back to before New South Wales debate, before Julia Finn made this speech and before we really exposed Emily's List via our videos. And check this out. The South Australian branch of Emily's List had 9 members. It had Sarah Andrews, Nadia Clancy, Susan Close, Nat Cook, Katrine Hildyard, Rhiannon Pearce, Lucy Hood, Catherine Hutchinson, and Irene Numikatos. Now, Irene has since left the parliament, so we can give them that. She literally is no longer an MP. So yes, it makes sense that she'd be removed from this list. But that still leaves 8 South Australian Labor MPs who are pro-abortion and part of Emily's List, who are no longer there. The website has been scrubbed. We've only got 4 MPs left. Even Katrine Hildyard, who is literally one of the most pro-abortion MPs in the country. She's a founding, she's an emblematic Emily's List member. In fact, when they did a report, they used her as one of the key voices. You can check out my video on Katrine, and the link is going to be down below to all of the videos that I reference. We'll put them down below so you see them and you can watch them. I mean, watch my video on Katrine Hildyard. You could not get someone more pro-abortion than that. Last year, when we were trying to save babies in the 3rd trimester from being killed, 28 weeks and older, she actually organised a parliamentary briefing to explain to MPs why they couldn't vote for Ben Hood's bill, why these babies had to be killed. That's how pro-abortion she is. But even she is not on the website anymore. What could possibly be going on? Well, I did a bit of digging. There's a registry of members' public interest. So any kind of association, club, any kind of organisation that they're a part of, they have to list that and disclose that to the Parliament. And if you look at 2024, Katrina Hildyard is there in black and white. She's a member of Emily's List. Now, it's very interesting that since we blew open the issue of Emily's List, since we exposed who they are, and remember, we're not reaching enormous numbers. The YouTube video on Emily's List reached about 30,000. The stuff we did in the New South Wales campaign on socials, that reached millions. But, it's still just, maybe 9 or 10 million a month. It's not enormous numbers, but it's interesting because they've scrubbed their website after we did that. 50% of South Australian Labor women who are part of Emily's List are no longer there. And there's an election coming up next March. And I think it's because not they've had a change of heart, but because they know how bad this looks, because we're finally making a difference. Now, if we look at New South Wales, a very similar thing has happened. On May 13, just after we had our rally, just after Julia Finn did her speech, Emily's List had 19 members on its website of pro-abortion Labor women who were part of this. 19 members. Now, again, 1 or 2 of these, like Jodie McKay, they're no longer a member of Parliament, so it makes sense that they would be removed if they're updating their website. But get this, they went from 19 to 9 on October 15. If you look at Emily's List website today, you will see there's only 9 members left. 9 members. They've gone from 19 to 9 in just a few months. So what's going on? Is this a scrubbing of the website or is this a change of heart? Now, I can tell you for a fact that I think for Sophie Kotsis, who's a Labor MP who was part of Emily's List in May, I reckon it is probably a change of heart. She courageously voted against Amanda Greens' abortion bill. Now, I don't think she was pro-life prior to this, to our debate, because as I understand it, in 2019, she voted for abortion up to birth. But something happened. I know she met with members of her electorate. I've heard a few stories. I heard she consulted people and she genuinely had a change of heart and she voted against the Amanda Radical Greens abortion bill. So no doubt Emily's List has kicked her out. It makes sense that she's no longer listed because she hasn't bought their dogma hook, line and sinker. Jodie McKay as well, she's someone that is no longer an MP, so it makes sense she's not on the list. But what about the rest? Why has there been over half of the MPs in South Australia and New South Wales that Emily's List proudly broadcast as being part of their pro-abortion club, half of them are gone. Over half of them are gone now. What is going on? And I can tell you, I know some of these people personally. I know Katrine Hildyard. She goes at election time and at big masses like Easter to my church. I know she hasn't had a change of heart about abortion up to birth because I asked her when she rocked up at Easter Mass. I asked her after church, I said, is the reason that you're here, does that tell us that you've repented and you really now believe that abortion after birth is wrong? She didn't repent. She hasn't changed her mind. She still is aggressively pro-abortion. She's still part of Emily's List. They've just removed it from the website. Another person, Jo Halen, in the New South Wales list. She's no longer listed as an Emily's List MP. Now, she's someone I went to uni with. We even did a preference deal back in the day. But I wager she hasn't changed her mind on abortion. I wager that she's just as pro-abortion as she always was, but she knows now that this isn't a good look, that if you come out in this way, we will expose what you're into, which is killing babies right up until birth, giving no human rights protection to babies throughout all 40 weeks of pregnancy. It's evil, and we're exposing it for the first time. That's why they've scrubbed the website. And the reason we know that it's a scrubbing of the website is that it hasn't happened in the other states where we haven't been active. If you look at Queensland, Victoria and WA, you've still got reams and reams of pro-abortion Emily's List MPs who haven't been affected by our advocacy, so they're still happy to put their names on the website. But you know what? They better start scrubbing because, we've started in New South Wales and South Australia, but we're going everywhere. We're going to Victoria next because we've got to fight Georgie Purcell. So we're going to be exposing all of these abortion-loving MPs. It's not going to be safe for them. It's going to be physically safe, but it's not going to be politically safe, And we're not out to kill them the way that they aggressively like killing babies. We're not about that. That's not what this is about. We're not about violence. But we are about using our democratic power to expose what they're into. And Emily's List is into killing babies right up until birth. Any MP that is a part of it should not feel politically safe. So this proves something really powerful, guys. We are making a difference. And, sometimes it can just feel so exhausting. Like a couple of days ago, I realised I've had a relapse of hypothyroidism, which is something that has plagued me since my mid-20s. It is triggered by stress and doing too much and et cetera, et cetera. And I know what you're all going to write in the comments, Jo, you need to slow down. And it can feel really hard sometimes because you just pour all of this into this work. And I've had a few people reach out and say, Jo, I've noticed a change in your YouTube videos. I've noticed almost a desperation about really telling people they need to step up and get involved. I think that's how I feel. I think because I'm so in it, I just feel like we're at such an aggressively evil place, like in this country. There is such a cultural battle going on, but there's too few people willing to step up into the fight. But on the other hand, I see so much hope. I know we're making a difference. I literally can see it. Emily's List is scrubbing its website in the 2 states that we've been most active because they know how bad it looks to be so aggressively pro-abortion. I know we're making a difference because we are having tens of thousands join our movement. Our following on socials has tripled this year. Like it's increased so much. Our email database is growing. The donations are coming in. You guys are really behind it. I can see that. We are literally making a difference. We gutted a radical abortion bill, something we have not been able to do in this country, and yet we did that together earlier this year. We've now got 2 pro-life bills in state parliaments, one in New South Wales that's about to be introduced, one in South Australia that's already there. I mean, this is incredible. We've never seen this level of activity. Our National Life Summit, I'll put a link to it down below, we've already had 550 tickets sold and we've barely advertised it. Last year, we only got 200. So it just tells you there is tremendous growth and momentum here. We've got Tradies for Babies, Pro-Life Health Professionals Australia, Bird Flip, all of these new organisations springing up that are pushing a pro-life agenda. So it's incredible. This is not the time, even though the doctors tell me you got to slow down, Joe, this is not the time to slow down. This is the time to batten down. And so we've got a massive fight in Victoria. The petition link's down below. You guys need to sign that because we've got a defensive battle there. We've got an offensive battle in South Australia and New South Wales. And again, we've got petition links down below. But the really urgent call to action is to turn up to our rally next Wednesday in the New South Wales Parliament, 5:30 p.m, 22nd of October. I just need you. We need to be there. I keep telling the people, you're not pro-life if you don't turn up to the rallies, because the rallies is what the politicians see. That is what they see. It's no coincidence that the Greens bill in New South Wales got gutted the night after our massive rally, which had 10,000 people and shut down Macquarie Street. So guys, I can't do this alone. We have to do it together. Make the rally next Wednesday a priority. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time on the Dr. Joe Show.